So I just farted and then they kicked me out of the car and now I'm walking home. So if this is you and your gas is quite significantly foul, then in this video I'm going to help you understand what's going wrong and steps you could take to fix it. Everybody should be able to get a ride home. Let's do it.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now this can be a difficult situation to deal with. I remember 20, 30 years ago when I would go on dates, like I couldn't go on a date without sneaking some gas X into my pocket or something. And little did I know I was making things worse by using things like that. But just know that I had this problem long ago and now I don't have this problem. So you can correct the issue. And the first thing to understand is that to have some gas is normal. That's a normal thing to do. You just don't want it to be foul. If it's foul and it smells really bad, then that's a sign of some things going wrong. But we all should have bacteria in our large intestine, and they can kind of ferment a lot of these foods that we consume. And that fermentation process can create some gases that needs to escape. The gas needs to get out somehow. So gas escaping is not this horrible situation. But when it's foul, it's a sign of some things going wrong. And there's two major aspects of digestion that are usually the culprits. So this is how it works. When we eat food, our stomachs make hydrochloric acid, or HCl. And this acid helps us break that food down. It acidifies that food so it can start to break down. And then once the food is acidified in the stomach, it'll leave and go into the duodenum, which is the first 10 inches of the small intestine. And that's when the gallbladder will squirt this alkaline bile down onto the acid product. So this alkaline bile meeting this acid product leaving the stomach creates a sizzle, and that really helps us bust the food apart and get all the nutrients that we need out of that food. That's kind of why we eat food. The problem is it's really common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid, and it's really common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly. So when either of those sides of digestion are not working correctly, then you're not really breaking down your food, and that's going to create a lot of trouble. Let's look at the stomach acid side first. Remember, that acid is there to help us start to break that food down in the stomach. Well, if a person is not making enough stomach acid, which can happen for a wide variety of reasons, then that food is not being acidified. So it just sits there and it's kind of waiting to be broken down a little bit before it leaves the stomach. Now, when it's not acidified correctly, it will break down by process of rotting and fermenting. Well, if you took a whole bunch of food and just put it in a garbage can with a lid in it, and then go back a few days later and stick your head in that garbage can, well, that's not going to smell real pretty. That's going to be pretty bad. So that's kind of what's happening to the food in your body when it's not being broken down properly. That rotting and fermenting is creating gases, and then those gases have to escape. And because those gases are from rotting and food's kind of putrefying, then that's going to be a little bit foul. Now here's the other problem, is that when there's not enough stomach acid, that's the barrier that wipes out any microorganisms that are coming in on your food. So that's kind of our knight in very disgusting armor. So when there's not enough stomach acid, the bad guys come in and they set up camp in our stomach, and then they also move down into our small intestine, and we get what's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now the problem with this bacteria in our stomach or the small intestine, where they really shouldn't be, is that they're going to ferment food just like the good bacteria do in our large intestine. But they're kind of now fermenting a lot of food that's not really broken down. And they're fermenting it in a place where it shouldn't be and creating a lot more gas. So we really want that stomach acid function there, not only to break down our food, but to keep out all the bad guys. If you think you might have a SIBO issue, we'll put a link in the description below this video for our video about SIBO so you can understand that situation a little bit better. But now let's look at the other side of digestion, the bile flow issue. And this can be a really common problem because there's a lot of things in our world and in our food that have the ability to thicken up our bile so it won't flow correctly. And the problem is this bile is a soapy substance that's made by the liver, and then it goes down to the gallbladder where it's stored, and then when the acidic food leaves the stomach, that bile squirts down from the gallbladder onto this food. Now, it does help neutralize those acids that left the stomach, because the intestinal tract is not made to hold those acids like the stomach is, so it really needs to be neutralized. But the other thing that it does is that this soapy substance helps us emulsify the dietary fats we consume. These dietary fats have to be broken down just like a protein or some kind of carbohydrate would need to be broken down for us to be able to get the benefit from that food. So when we don't have enough bile flow, we can't emulsify or break down those dietary fats. Well, guess what happens to fats when they're not broken down? They become rancid. Rancid things have quite an odor to them. So if something is rancid inside of you, then it's going to be kind of rancid when it comes out. You're going to be leaving like a wake of rancid behind you as you walk around the buffet, and people are going to tell the employees that the eggs have gone rotten. So this is something that you really want to fix. The great news is that you can fix these things. You can restore your stomach acid function if it's not working correctly, and you can thin out bile so that it will flow correctly if it's become too thick and sticky to move the right way. And my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, will walk you through figuring out, are there aspects of digestion that are not working correctly? And if so, what steps do I need to correct those? And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below this video so you can get the whole thing totally for free. And that'll walk you through that process. And one thing that's important to understand is that this bile also holds all the toxins that the liver filters out of the body. So the liver filters out these toxins, puts it in the bile, and then the bile moves to the intestinal tract and carries these toxins with them so that they can go out the back door when we poop like a champion. So when bile isn't flowing, not only are we not breaking down those dietary fats, we're also not detoxifying the way that the body should. And now there's all these extra toxins in the body that keep accumulating, and they have to escape any way they can, and they can have some odor as they escape. So another important thing to understand is if you take steps to thin out your bile so that it can flow correctly, if your bile has been backed up for months, years, or even decades, there can be a lot of toxins backed up that will start to move out as the bile starts to move. And a lot of these toxins can come out, and they can make your gas even more foul temporarily. So if you're taking steps to improve bile and now your gas is even worse, well, you know that things are moving in the right direction. You actually have things moving, and some toxins are starting to get out of the body, and that will pass soon enough. And then once everything's working and you're actually digesting your food correctly, any gas you have is not going to stink up the town or get you kicked out of the car. Now, you may have found that some foods cause more foul gas than others, and they make sense just from their makeup. But what I've found is that people can avoid those foods and they avoid that gas, but if they also just fix the underlying cause of the issue and help their body digest food the way that it should, then most foods are going to be fine. And they're not going to have to dodge and run from these foods. They can eat anything and it's not going to create the foul gas. Now, another option is that a person may be lactose intolerant where they don't have the enzyme to break down that lactose enzyme. So they may have a lot of foul gas when they eat any type of dairy. So they can take digestive enzymes for lactose to help them digest that dairy correctly, and if the missing enzyme was the problem, then that'll correct the issue for them as well. And the final thing to think about is that if somebody's constipated, then their stool is not moving out of the body like it should. It's staying in the body and it's continuing to ferment and become more yuck. So when that's yuck, then what comes out is going to be yuck as well. So if you're plugged up, you really want to correct that issue. And we'll put a link in the description below this video on our video about constipation, because if you're not pooping like a champion, there's a lot of problems going on that are creating that, but you can correct those issues. So we'll put all that info in the description below so you can dig deeper into the topics that are appropriate for you. Just know that poor bile flow is the most common cause when someone's gas is really foul. So jump over right now and watch our video on 10 signs of poor bile flow to see if there are other indications that might say your bile isn't flowing correctly. I can't wait to hear about your results.